officials are concerned about the current sustained increase in reported deaths from alcohol-related conditions, attributing this increase to a rise in alcoholism.
All right, so what's happening?
So health officials are concerned about alcohol deaths rising because people are drinking more.
Well, not because people are drinking more, because they're saying there's a rise in, like, I mean, yes, but there's a rise in alcoholism. Like alcohol, like this is important for this question. Like, yeah, I get what you're saying is true. Like, but can people drink more without being an alcoholic?
Sure.
So yeah, okay, sorry. Not keep reading. You're good. Like, and they're essentially they're saying the reason that there's more deaths is because more people are becoming alcoholics.
Okay.
Cool.
What these health officials are overlooking, however, is that attitudes towards alcoholism have changed radically. Alcoholism is now widely viewed as a disease, whereas in the past it was considered a moral failing. It is therefore likely that more deaths are being reported as alcohol-related because physicians are more likely to identify these deaths as alcohol-related.
Okay, so what is our conclusion?
It is therefore likely that more deaths are being reported as alcohol-related.
Because physicians are more likely to identify these deaths. And what are we say, like, what is it more likely then?
More likely than being a disease.
Yeah, well, what disease?
A moral failing.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it used to be considered a moral failing, whereas now they're saying it's a disease.
Yes, but why? Okay. Okay, so we're saying that is therefore likely that more deaths are being reported as alcohol related because physicians are more likely to identify these deaths as alcohol related. Why? What was the other reason for why there were more deaths being reported? Did they think more deaths were being reported?
More deaths are being reported as alcohol-related because physicians are more likely to identify these deaths as alcohol.
So what do the other health officials think it is?
A disease?
What do they attribute the deaths to?
Alcoholism.
They're saying, hey, there's more reported deaths from alcohol-related conditions because there's an increase in alcoholism.
Okay.
And so we're saying, hey, what these health officials are overlooking is that attitudes towards alcoholism have changed radically. And alcoholism is now viewed as a disease rather than a moral failing. So it's more likely that there's a rise in deaths, not because there's actually a rise in alcoholism, but because the physicians are more likely just to identify these deaths as alcohol related. So what I'm envisioning is, say someone dies from like liver failure, instead of like it being liver failure on the doctor report, like the doctor might say, like people might say that he died of alcoholism, where in the past they would just say liver failure or something, or drinking and driving. Before they would say it was a car accident, where now they might say like he died of like alcoholism, pretty much killed him, you know, like where it's not that the number of deaths have changed or alcoholism has changed, it's just people are more likely to like label it as that. So we're trying to strengthen the idea that the rise in alcohol related deaths is because physicians are more likely just to identify those deaths as alcohol related.
Got it. Okay. Okay, so A says the frequent use of alcohol by young people is being reported as occurring at increasingly early ages. Well, they weren't talking about what age they're saying.
This is like the opposite, right? If we were this would almost strengthen that there is a rise in alcoholism if people are drinking younger.
Right. In some places and times, susceptibility to any kind of disease has been viewed as a moral failing. I don't feel like that is part of the.
It's like, cool. So this has been a thing before, but that doesn't mean that these specific deaths are because physicians are more likely to identify them.
Yeah. And then C was the right answer, but I chose D. Even though alcoholism is considered to be a disease, most doctors recommend psychological counseling and support groups as the best treatment. And I totally see why that's wrong.
Good. I love, no, when you can laugh at your answer, that's a huge learning moment.
Yeah. Yeah, because they weren't even talking about doing counseling. That's not even part of.
Or what would counseling have to do with like we're talking about people that died.
Yeah.
We're not saying like, we're not trying to say like the more people have been cured because of physicians.
Right. And then many health officials are not physicians.
Irrelevant.
Yeah. And then C, more physicians now than in the past are trained to recognize the physical effects of alcoholism. And that totally makes sense now.
Yeah, because like not only, yeah, it strengthens the idea like not only has their attitudes changed, but they actually have the skill set to recognize it.
So this is my huge aha that I had just sitting here over the last 10 minutes is when I find and I have a hard time with the vocabulary that you guys use because I feel like it's
and you come to the advanced class and I need to figure something out where like some people I worked with for a long time, I feel bad when there's one student that isn't as familiar. Hold on, I'm gonna stop.